Today we'll improve our marker pop-up for our Find the Marker game in Roblox. Right now, when a player collects a marker, some UI elements appear instantly on the screen. This isn't a very smooth or appealing pop-up. So first let's add a frame under starter GUI to our marker found GUI. And I'll rename this to Viewport Area. This will have the exact same size and position as the viewport frame. So copy the position and paste it over, and copy the size and paste it over. I'm not going to worry about the whole scaling on multiple devices, especially with our UI aspect ratio constraints like we've done with the index GUI, because I've already shown you how to do that. I'm not going to go over it again. Make sure the background transparency is set to 1. This will just be used to scale the viewport frame to the size of the area as an animation. You'll see what I mean when we get programming. But what we will want to do is put the viewport frame inside of the viewport area. And obviously that's now going to resize our viewport frame. So we need to just manually change some stuff around here. So I'm going to set the anchor point of the viewport frame to 0.5, just so that the origin will be in the middle of the viewport frame, because I'm going to have the animation so it will basically scale from 0 to 1, so it will get larger and then it will get smaller again, and I want it to get larger from the center. By default, with an anchor point of 0, 0, it's going to get larger from top left, so it's going to kind of come in from top left. I don't really want that, so 0.5 it is for me. And then I will just set the position to 0.50, and that put it at the very middle of our viewport area. And I'll set the size to 1010, just so it scales the entire area. Now let's program our animation. So open up the local script, and we're going to add the Tween Service. So Tween Service is game::get service, Tween Service. And the Tween Service is used for creating animations via tweens. Now in our GUI, we've got a screen GUI of script.parent. That's the main GUI holding all the elements. And we've got our viewport frame, which is actually now under the viewport area. So let's add our viewport area. So viewport area is going to be equal to screen GUI dot viewport area. It should be a dot, not /. Now our viewport frame will be equal to the viewport area dot viewport frame. Everything else can stay the same. Now let's set up some tween settings. So this is how our animation will behave. We can have our tween info in is going to be tweeninfo.new. Open up this bracket here, the parentheses. And our tween info in is going to be the animation's behavior. So this is going to be how the animation will enter when we first start the animation, how it's going to appear on the screen. And then we'll also have a tween info out, which will be how the animation disappears, how the pop-up disappears. So this is how it's going to appear. So we start with the time. So I'm going to go for 0.4 seconds as a guess for what this will look like. This is our time. Then we got our easing style. So I want it to smoothly come in and out. So I'm going to go for enum.easing style dot. I'm going to go for quad. So it actually gives you a description of what all of these are here. There's quite a few. So we've got back, sine, linear, quad, cubic. It's all mathematical. Quad here is similar to sine, but with a slightly sharper curve based on quadratic interpolation. Basically, a sine graph is like a wave. It goes up and then down and then up and then down. If we use quad, it's got slightly sharper curve, so it's a bit sharper, essentially. If you don't want to get into the maths with it, then don't worry too much. And finally, we have our easing direction. So this is basically how fast it starts and ends. So we'll say enum.easing direction. And if we go for in, then the easing style is applied in a forward direction. So quad is going to start slow and end fast. If we go for out, it's going to start fast and end slow. And we can also do an in-out, which is like sort of in the middle. So I'm going to go with out because I want the animation to start fast and end slow. Now let's go for our animation out. So tween info, in fact I'll copy all of this here and paste it in again, and rather than this being tween info in, it will be tween info out. Again I'll do 0.4. I'm going to go for quad again, but this time it will be in because I want it to start slow and end fast. Now let's actually animate the pop-up appearing. So we'll say function tween in. So this is our tween in, so this is our animation when the elements appear. So we'll start by making the elements visible. So we can say viewport frame, well, let's just copy our code down here. There's no point rewriting code we've already written. So where we hide our objects, let's copy that and paste it in. So viewport frame.visible will be equal to true. Name text.visible will be true. And found text.visible will be true. And then we need our starting values before the animation. So if we're animating in, we want the initial scale size of every element to be 0. We don't want to be able to see the element, we want to scale it up. So I will say viewport frame dot size equals udim2 dot from scale 0, 0. And then I'll make the name text and found text invisible. So I want the actual marker frame to scale up, and I want the texts to fade in and out. Name text dot text transparency equals 1, and found text dot text transparency equals 1. Now we'll animate this to the full size and make it visible. We'll say Tween Service create. In here we need the element that we're animating, so the viewport frame. The tween settings, which will be our tween info in function. There should be a comma here. There we go. And then we need the properties that we're animating. So the size, which we're going to set to udim2 dot from scale, and we're going to set it to a scale of 1, 1. So it will match the entire area of the container, the viewport area. And then we'll say play, and this will play the animation. So we're setting the size property. Make sure this size is spelled exactly how the property is here. Uppercase S, lowercase I, Z, E. Otherwise it will not work. And then we'll copy this line, paste it in 2 more times because we've got 3 elements to animate. And one will be for the name text, and one will be for the found text. The name text, we're going to not animate the size, but the text transparency. And that's the same for the found text. And it won't be set to udim2.fromScale, it will just be set to 0, because we want to make the text visible. And that is it for the pop-up appearing. Now let's copy this function, drop down and paste it again, and this will be tween out. So this is our pop-up disappearing. We're not going to hide anything straight away, we're actually going to hide everything at the end. So let's cut that and put it right at the end. Make elements invisible. So we'll set the viewport frame.visible to false, the name text visible to false, and the found text visible to false. We'll do that once we've played all the animation. So let's delete everything else, and we'll start again. So we're going to shrink the viewport frame. Because I want it to animate out as it shrinks, so I'm going to make it go from a scale of 1, 1 to 0, 0, so we can't see it again. So I'll just say local tween1 equals tween. I've actually spelled Tween Service wrong up here, so I'm going to fix that and then fix it here as well. Tween Service. There we go. So back to the tween out. So I'm going to create a tween for all of our elements now. So let's start with the viewport frame. I'll copy these 3 lines here, paste them in. Tween Service create. Viewport frame, tween info. This will be out now. We're going to do that for all 3 of these. Our out settings, which is here. And the size will be going from a scale, it'll be going to 0, 0, not 1, 1. So this will shrink it back to 0, 0. And we'll fade out our text, so make the text transparency 1 in both the name text and the found text. While they're playing, what we'll do is wait until the shrinking animation has finished, and then we will hide everything. Once the animations are finished, we'll hide everything. Because they're all playing around the same time, we only need to really check one. So what I'll do is set this tween to a variable. I'll say local tween equals tween service create. I won't play it here. I'll play it down underneath after everything's been defined. And I'll do the same here as well. So I'll remove these plays and make these all a variable. So this will be local tween1, this will be tween2, and this will be tween3. And the reason I'm going to make these a variable is because I want to track when they're finished. So then what we'll do is play all the tweens. Once they've been created, we'll play them. So tween1 play, tween2 play, tween3 play. And then we can wait until the shrinking animation is finished before we hide these elements. We can say tween1 dot completed wait. And that's all we really need to do. You could do a tween2, tween3.completed:wait as well. But we only need to check one because they're going to run at about the same time. If you want, you could do tween3 as that's going to be the last one to run. So now in our hide marker remote event, we actually need to play these animations. We can remove our viewport frame.visible is true. We will update the name text, but we won't make the name text visible or the found text visible. We'll remove the wait 2 seconds, and we're going to remove the hide objects. We'll still destroy everything at the end, but between updating the name text and destroying stuff, we want to play the pop-up appear animation, so tween in, and we'll call that function. And then we'll keep the pop-up visible for however long. Then we'll say wait 2 again, or however long you want the pop-up to stay on the screen. Then we'll say tween out, and that will play the disappear animation. Now we can actually test this, so let's hit test and play. And we've got an error. Viewport area is not a valid member of screen GUI. So let's have a look. So this error is in the local script on line 10. So on line 10, we've got an error. So .viewport area, that's because it's an uppercase V, and I've got it as a lowercase v here. So if I make that an uppercase V, it should work. Hit play. No errors in the output, no orange warnings. Now let's go collect a marker. So if I collect the salmon marker, here we go, and it appears quite nicely on the screen. Now let's try the orange marker. Wonderful. And I'll just do one more. I think it's quite a nice animation. There we go, now we've got our green marker, and it works perfectly. There are many different ways you can animate your pop-up, and this is just one simple example. But hopefully this video has given you an idea about animating GUI in Roblox using Tween Service. I encourage you to play around and see what animations you can come up with. But that is all for this video. The next video is the final one I have planned, so if you have any more suggestions for the series, please let me know in the comments before the conclusion video, which will be the one after the one I have planned unless I get more suggestions. In this video, I will go over keeping the markers visible. This was a common suggestion I've had, so if you want your markers to stay visible once they've been found, give that video a watch. Check out our Discord server, which you can find the link to in the description, where we're trying to build a community of future game developers. You can ask for programming help, help others, or just chat there too. Thanks for watching, and goodbye.